Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. Belarusian opposition leaders, activists, and supporters are gathering in Warsaw this weekend for the new Belarus Conference as they seek to chart the country's future beyond Alexander Lukashenko. The event comes amid reports of growing intimidation by Belarusian security services and renewed calls from Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya to the West to treat Belarus not only as a democracy issue, but as an essential part of Europe's security and any future peace settlement for Ukraine. And joining us now is Franak Viačorka, chief advisor to Belarus opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. Good to have you back with us. Welcome.
Good morning.
So I want to play just a quick clip of Ms. Tsikhanouskaya, who was actually here on the record for a program earlier this week. And this is an interesting quote of many that she shared with us. So let's roll that right now.
It's the part of security architecture of our region, that without free and democratic Belarus, there will be no peace, no security for all NATO alliance. And when there will be negotiation about Ukraine, don't overlook Belarus. Don't postpone Belarus for, one day later we'll return to Belarus. No, we have to solve Belarusian and Ukrainian case together, because if we leave this Belarusian balcony in the hands of Putin and Lukashenko, it will be a source of constant threat to NATO alliance as well, to European Union.
All right, so there she said at this Belarusian balcony, and don't postpone it. Also, I think that's one of the themes of the conference is the window of opportunity. So tell us a bit more about what precisely this threat balcony is right now in practical terms.
Just look at the map. Belarus shares 1,000 kilometers border with Ukraine, 1,000 kilometers with NATO countries, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. And if this border is controlled by Russians, by militarized Russians, by Putin, they will always organize provocations, escalation, and control by Russia over Belarus is very dangerous to each of European countries. That's why we must look at Belarus much broaderly. I understand that it's not on the agenda right now, that Ukraine is in focus, and it's totally understandable. But we must see what Putin is doing not only in Ukraine, but also in Moldova, in Armenia, in Georgia, and of course in Belarus. And this balcony, it's not only about military, it's also about economic control, it's about political pressure, it's about border, again, migration crisis. It's happening through which borders? Polish Belarusian, Lithuanian Belarusians, and that's why we must get rid of Lukashenko and must get rid of Putin. From Belarus, only then Poland and NATO countries will be secured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned also migration. In fact, this is something that we know all too well, unfortunately, in this part of the world. We've seen that, the defenses going up, border defenses to Belarus in particular, from Poland. But also recently, we've had another case. We've had, I think the Estonians have now taken in, I think the last few days, about 100 migrants who came via Belarus that was stopped. And then also, I believe it was the Latvians who've taken in over, I think, stopped 9,000 illegal border crossings this year alone. I mean, do you see this as a renewed tactic here? Is this another attempt by Minsk to funnel through migrants, weaponizing migration?
It is continuing since 2021. It started in the fall 5 years ago, and Putin and Lukashenko saw that it works well. It distracts attention, distracts resources from supporting Ukraine, for example. It's also testing the security, the safety of the borders. Russians, they're trying to understand where are weak spots in Polish defense, in Latvian, Lithuanian. And of course, these migrants, they're a tool in hands of Lukashenko and Putin. They're playing with people's lives. So many migrants died trying crossing this border. This is organized with the help of Lukashenko state agencies. It's not just like random people coming to Belarus and then go to Poland, to Latvia. They are organized by tours. They are brought to Minsk and then brought to the border. They are helped to build tunnels under the ground to get to the European Union. And there are no signs Putin and Lukashenko are going to stop there. The only way is to treat the problem itself, not symptoms, is to stop these two cruel criminal regimes.
Mm-hmm. And to treat that problem itself, I mean, as you said, this is something we've seen out of the playbook from the Kremlin and Minsk for quite some time. Has, in your mind, we discussed this many times, that deterrence and what Europe can effectively do, what the EU can do, what countries on the eastern flank can do, is that now fit for purpose in your mind in terms of, I know that it's not treating exactly the symptom, but in terms of actual defense right now, do you think that's fit for purpose at the moment?
I think Poland, Lithuania, Latvia are doing a great job already and creating defense and increasing the security of the border, deploying troops and border guards. It's all been done. But still, it's a big pressure, and it's impossible to control, and stop it completely. So the problem itself is the regime. They must feel the consequences. They must pay the price. Sanctions are increasing the costs for Putin and Lukashenko of doing that. If they see that each migrant, each criminal action, each attack on Ukraine will cost too much for them, then they will stop. Then they will negotiate. Just hoping that they will become suddenly good partners and sit at the negotiation table, it's too naive. We saw it many times. With Lukashenko, it never worked. He just he takes what he wants, and that's it. So pressure, isolations and sanctions, full support for Ukraine and for those Belarusians, for example, who are fighting against the regime both inside the country and in exile.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the negotiating table. I mean, for many reasons, we're not there yet if we're looking at Ukraine. But at the same time, and also what Ms. Tsikhanouskaya said here, looking at that Belarus should be included in some kind of deal if Ukraine is settled. What would you like to see on that kind of deal? Is that Russian troop withdrawal? Is that removing the nuclear weapons? Is that something more broader? What needs to be part of that deal that she was talking about?
There are several elements which shows that Russia is controlling Belarus. It's a military, political, economical tools. So first of all, we must make sure that Russia is not able to interfere into Belarusian military and political life. Of course, Russia must withdraw its military bases, nuclear weapons, strategic missiles, or Oreshnik from Belarus territory. And Russia must allow Belarusians to conduct the democratic elections, the democratic transition. Because 26 years ago, Lukashenko stayed in power only thanks to Putin. And Putin didn't allow Belarusians to change the leadership of Belarus. So if the international community or this peace deal will include such points, it will help us to save Ukrainian northern border, but also to make sure that Belarus is not longer a source of a threat for NATO countries, as it is right now, basically every single day. Of course, peace deal, it's a long perspective, but we are fighting and working with European partners to make sure that this Belarusian element is included in Belarus, is not becoming consolation prize for Putin.
Mm-hmm. Also, at the same time, we've seen kind of almost two strands here. On one side, still warning Belarus, still deterring any kind of, let's say, migrant action or anything else. But at the same time, we've seen a kind of rapprochement, especially if we're looking at the United States, what the United States is doing under President Trump, some of these exchanges, there have been visits at that level. How does Europe fit into all of this? I mean, Europe still has very much of following the sanctions. You say that hurts Belarus, but at the same time, where does this go? I mean, is this a parallel track? I mean, are you in touch with Washington on this? I mean, are they pursuing the same goals here?
I would say there are complementary tracks. Europe evolves pressure on the regime. Europe's position is much more important. Sanctions are much more powerful than American sanctions because the whole trade, the whole border, shows that the position of Europe will define the future of Belarus. And the pressure from Europe creates incentive for Lukashenko to release people to President Trump, because he realizes if he doesn't do that, he will be fully isolated. And President Trump, American administration are using this weakness of Lukashenko's regime. They are trying to negotiate. We see it as the humanitarian track. We don't see signs that they're going, to get back to business as usual as it was before. They want people free, and you see Andrzej Poczobut, Polish-Belarusian journalist, is free. Ales Bialiatski, Nobel laureate, is free. It's working. But when Europe or Prime Minister Tusk or President Macron will start doing the same, effect will be the opposite. That's why we encourage European leaders not to follow Trump's policy, but evolve pressure, because your position is stronger and your cards are needed for a bigger game.
Mm-hmm. And let's also talk about that bigger game. Right now, the hope is that there would be a change in policy, that Moscow would at some point remove itself from Belarus, let it be free. But I'll just ask the question, what kind of incentive is there for that? I mean, how realistic is that notion of Moscow saying, well, we're going to step back? How much leverage does the West have in all this for that to happen?
Russia will not be willing to remove itself from Belarus voluntarily. It will happen only when Russia is busy with its own problem, when it's weak. You see, when Ukraine started to hit targets inside Russia, Russia is fully obsessed with their own things. Ukraine started to speak with a language of strength with Lukashenko. It will be the moment when Russia is not able to save Lukashenko. You see what happened in Venezuela. Russia didn't help. In Syria, Russia was not able to help. It was too busy. And the same will happen in Belarus. So we must prepare for this moment when we must strengthen Ukraine. We must stay strong, resilient so much as possible. We must believe that Belarus can be free. Changes in Belarus are much more possible than changes in Russia, I believe. And when this momentum comes, Belarusian democratic forces must be united, to take power back.
Mm-hmm. And just one sentence of your hope for this conference that's coming up on the weekend before we close.
First conference with all the leaders who are released in last year, Belatsky, Babaryka, Severinets, many others. It's a new impulse, new force, new energy, and new ideas for our movement. We are alive, we are fighting, so to give hope to each other.
Mm-hmm. I think also, as I said, one of the panels I think is a window of opportunity, so I hope that is also seized. Look, thanks so much for coming by. Always a pleasure having you. That was Franak Viačorka, Chief Advisor to Belarus Opposition Leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but do stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.